Throughout my life, I've been an amateur everything. Amateur chef, actually not amateur, I should say a frustrated chef, frustrated physician, frustrated physicist, frustrated psychologist. Specifically, behaviorist, not a treating psychiatrist or psychologist, but somebody who has studied and is fascinated by how people react in terms of their collective behavior. And the crowd, ochlocracies, this terrible tragedy of, you've heard about this, apparently there was this disaster in South Korea, where there was this, I guess, what would you call it? Just the huge surge of humanity killed in this crowd crush. It reads, CNN says at least 26 foreign nationals and 14 countries were killed in this. It's just this movement, and by virtue of the movement and the momentum and the danger and how it happens, and there have always been surges, obviously there have been stampedes and tramplings, but what fascinates me is the crowd, what brings people together, especially on the eve here of Halloween, and how, especially in New York, you haven't lived till you've seen Halloween. And I am so fascinated by what motivates the crowd, the murmurations that we see, like in the cases of starlings and the like. I want to discuss that with you, my enlightened friend. But first, a word from our sponsor. Silver demand will exceed supply again this year. 32,000 tons of silver will be produced against 34,000 tons of demand. Mining.com, an online-only news site covering the global mining and metals industry, sourced the data. This proves what Noble Gold Investments has long warned the market about. U.S.'s transition to renewable energy will put pressure on silver production. Silver is used in solar cells, industrial fabrication, and the automotive industry. There will be a future increase in demand in the field of nanotechnology, the food industry, and printed and flexible electronics. Demand will increase by 54% by 2030. There is no better time to invest with Noble Gold Investments than now. Noble Gold Investments will walk you through the entire process, and it will take you no more than 5 minutes to open a gold or silver IRA. And this month, you'll get an incredible free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin with a qualified IRA of $20,000 or higher. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments. Call the team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Remember, there is always a risk of loss, and past performance is not indicative of future results. I don't know where I was. I don't know when it was. But I can recall, as long as I can remember, being fascinated by seeing huge, or as we say in Hell's Kitchen, huge swaths, huge movements, swarms, hordes, passels, murmurations of starlings flying in this orchestrated, beautiful, choreographed, it looks almost like a Rorschach test or a punctuation marks flying across the sky. Just incredibly fascinating. How did they stay in touch? How did they stay coordinated? Why are they doing it? It has been posited, because you can't really speak to the birds, but I mean, you can speak to them, they don't really respond, but it's been posited that energy is somehow maintained, almost like drafting. It can create, in the mind of predators, a different style, a swath, if you will, of movement that is larger. Maybe it would be rather imposing this mass, as opposed to, oh, look, an assemblage of easily chomped, birds or whatever. But no. Who knows? No one knows. Not all birds do this. Some do, but it's called a murmuration. I love that term. By the way, there's something called the rule of 7, which was suggested. This is where each bird has basically 3 birds in front and 3 below, in essence, and each one follows the other one. So you never see one bird take off and lose direction. It's this wonderful movement. Think about how we work in terms of crowds as well, in terms of teams. Now that's more tribal. That's a very atavistic thing about being a part of a team through identification. And here's the issue that really comes into play regarding humans. We have an individual identity, an individual person that we identify with, us, the American or the New Yorker or the whatever it is, whatever your party is or whatever you speak or wherever you're from. You have some type of an self-identification of you, and maybe using descriptives to kind of describe you as being the focus, you as being the center of this group. And then later on, and this is important, and then later on, in a different iteration of this, then you are looked at as being a part of a bigger group. And you lose your identity as you are a part of this amalgam. You're not you anymore. You are part of this group. And with that comes, talk about generation of new forms of identification. You can lose individual responsibility and the like because of the fact that, hey, look, it's not me, it's them. Think about the old situations of yore when you would hear about people who would meet and all of a sudden yell a jump at some poor soul on a ledge, threatening suicide, like the Dirty Harry episode. Think how all of a sudden people who normally are heartwarming and God-fearing and loving would, when lost in this group, turn ferocious and actually yell and chide and invite this tragedy, this horror. Think about that. Think about how people throughout history have done the most despicable of behaviors, who have said, it's not me, I'm following orders, I'm merely a cog in this wheel. Don't look at me. Your beef is not with me, but with the organizers of this horrible event. They're the ones who. It gives us a wonderful sense of absolution or ablution as we wash our hands of it. It's not me. Look, I'm wearing a uniform. I don't even have any identification. I just follow orders. So it's provides a particular cover. Interestingly enough, as Gustave Le Bon, who was the father of crowds and the psychology of crowds, as he and others have posited, let me turn this down, by the way. Oh, look, it's 11:11 when I'm doing this. That always makes me happy. I don't know why. I love 11:11. When I look at it, oh, so many times I'll look at a clock, it's 11:11. And somebody told me, that's someone that you love who has passed on talking to you. I just love 11:11. I always have. Don't ask me why. And it's interesting how I always happen to be alerted to that particular time. I'm sure others as well that I haven't paid attention to. But I digress. Let's look at this other aspect of the mob, the ochlocracy. mob rule sometimes can be a wonderful thing. For example, it's been shown repeatedly that in the case of, let's say, a car that's turned over where somebody has been pinned, people who don't even know each other will come out of doors and shops and buildings and meet, working collectively to remove this overturned car, let's say. They didn't know each other. They didn't converse. They didn't vote on this. But that collective group actually benefited positively. So it can be a good thing. It's not always a swarm or a horde. But think about also the words for schools of fish and hordes and murders of crows and groups. There's groups of them. But the idea when something amasses. I've loved bees, the studies of hives and ants, and I love intercoordinated groups of people whose individuality is lost in view of the big picture, if you will, if that makes any sense. This losing ourselves. I'm fascinated right now as we speak, as the World Series is going full tilt. Phillies and Astros and teams and individuals enjoying it individually, but enjoying a bigger means of collective excitement in the group, the passel, the murmuration. What group are you in? What group do you define yourself as being in? I live in New York. My wife and I live here. If you ever want to feel individually, whatever, but then a part of an anthill, just go to any tall building and just look around you. There's 8-9 million people. It's 5 boroughs. There's more. Brooklyn itself, one borough would be the 5th largest city or something. I mean, the enormity. Go into the subway at rush hour. You'll feel like a red blood cell, like a corpuscle flying through these arteries. That can be daunting. That can destroy you. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I don't like crowds, but that's a different experience. And I can't tell you the difference why a crowd bothers me, but that doesn't. Sometimes I'll feel mobbed. If I'm in a restaurant or someplace and people are too close to me, or if I'm in a party, I don't like it. But I can be in a swell of humanity and think nothing of it. That's equally fascinating to me. And what would it be like if you could remove yourself, or people who live in areas where there may be in their group 3 people, 4, 5 people, it's all they ever see. There is no mob, there is no swath of humanity. There are no murmurations or schools or passels or. What does that do? How does that affect your psyche when everything you do is based upon your soul singularity? I always marvel at every aspect of the crowd. And in this particular case, I think about when crowds turn into riots, turn into like an avalanche of humanity, how they can become crushed and they can lose direction and penned, and it's like the bulls at Pamplona. I don't understand that one at all, but moving in these huge swaths. I mean, most of the time it doesn't end tragically, thank God. And they started off just wanting to have fun, just wanting to be a part, wanting to celebrate, and I'll let you think about that part. But I love and am fascinated by the psychology of groups, whether on a human level, animal level, from an ethological point of view, or human psychology. And you'll find, as in most cases, the stuff that happens around you on a regular basis, if you look at it the right way, it will captivate you. Go to a mall. Just sit and look. Guess who they are. Guess why they're there. Why is this family here and this man alone. What are they doing? Where are they going? Also, when you go to a mall, anytime there's any kind of merchandise, do as my wife says. Always look to see if they have bags. Commerce. Who's buying something? How's the economy doing? I've spoken enough. If you look around at what you see is what is right in front of you, you will find more often than not, that the world as presented to you is fascinating. Now, if you like this, please indicate by liking such. Please subscribe to the channel. And I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your observations as you comment as you see fit.